Grow Your Bottom Line, hosted by LaDawn Townsend, is a weekly podcast and business show. On this episode,
So why do we start with these 5 triggers? How do we even know if this means it's people or it's process? Glad you asked. Let's dive into it. I truly believe that when it comes to people, there are 2 different types of behaviors in the workforce. When we look into I'm not performing, we go a second level deeper. And it's either, do I need the training? Do I need the skills? Or am I really just not wanting to do the job?
all coming up next.
Hello, and welcome back to our next edition of our podcast. Today, we are talking about, is it people, process? How do we identify the root cause of problems? So I'm going to start off right off the top, and I want to share with you 5 areas to look at within your business. I call these key triggers. These are things that if you tend to find yourself involved in this cycle, it is a leading indicator that you need to do some root cause as to what's going on. Now, these are typically 5 times that our potential clients call us, and we walk them through this exercise so we can get a better feel of what's happening within the organization. This is a perfect time to grab your pen and paper, your note-taking device, as we go through each of the 5. You ready? Number 1, are you finding that teams are not providing results? What does this mean? When leaders discover that their teams are applying routine solutions to problems without thinking more creatively about their options, what happens is you're creating little or no return on investment for launched initiatives. So that's trigger number 1. Number 2, I call this process cleanup. Do you find yourself repeatedly engaged in operational process cleanup issues, customer complaints, escalations, having to deal with vendors, third parties, suppliers? Essentially, your day is expanded with handling things that you feel your team should really be able to handle. Number 3, low contract renewal. This is a big one. In some of our past episodes, we talked about identifying your customer satisfaction number, but I want to talk about the surface level symptom of low contract renewals. This is when existing clients are increasingly not renewing contracts, they're not expanding their services or their purchasing options with you. Okay. Number 4, we're kicking off this discussion around, is it people or process, with talking about some of the top 5 triggers that you can look for that will help you get to the root cause. And then we're going to talk through a plan of action. Number 4, let's just be honest with each other. Analysis paralysis. Your team is trapped in analysis paralysis. It's working in a silo, performing extra analysis to put off vital decisions. What are some immediate triggers of this? Is you're asking for reports to be turned in or deadlines to be made, and they're constantly pushing it out or not delivering it. And this silo type of analysis is making them miss valuable insights from other people in other areas. Number 5, let's just be honest, previous consultants. You've paid previous consultants, worked with other houses in order to bring in solutions, and you're left with a binder of ideas and no execution moving forward. So why do we start with these 5 triggers? How do we even know if this means it's people or it's process? Glad you asked. Let's dive into it. I truly believe that when it comes to people, there are 2 different types of behaviors in the workforce. When we look into I'm not performing, we go a second level deeper. And it's either, do I need the training? Do I need the skills? Or am I really just not wanting to do the job? And we're going to talk more about that in just a few moments when we return.
Where do business leaders go to receive the latest news, support, and tips on revenue growth, market expansion, and leadership development? It's all found in the Revenue Report, a quarterly publication for executives, business owners, and their teams. To learn more, visit bossgroup.org.
Now, let's resume our program. So when it comes to people, there's a few things that you first have to clarify in order to identify, is it that I need training? Do I need support? Are they just not willing to be able to do the job? Number 1, here's how you identify root cause as aligned to people. Have you established the right boundaries, accountability, and expectation for your team? Number one. Number two, how do you measure that? How do you equally, fairly measure that across the organization? And then number three, how are you communicating it? And more importantly, consistent communication. When it comes to the people factor, we treat it very close as we do with the process. Is that you have to be able to measure process, know your KPIs, know your numbers. It takes the emotion out of it. The same thing with people. Even though we support people through leadership and development and helping them with their professional growth, we still need to have an even playing field. So that way, whether it's Sally or John or David or Joan, we're measuring everyone correctly. So when it comes to your people, take a step back, high level, and ask yourself, are the accountability measurements there? Have we clearly communicated what the expectations are? Are we holding them to those expectations? How do we communicate that? When you can evenly execute all of that, it removes emotion 100%, and it brings in the right type of emotion of helping to improve the performance of the employee, helping to coach them versus, are they just picking on me? I mean, let's get real. At the end of the day, we hear a lot of that, even in higher levels of executive management. When you don't have those four things set up, it could be viewed as that. And you never want to have it viewed as a behavior or characteristic. You want it to be based on their role and position. And you want to be able to close any type of gaps that could lead to another impression. Now let's talk about process. Very similar. When it comes to process, number one, what are the expectations we have set for this process? Have we clearly communicated that to all players involved? Number three, how do we measure it? And number four, when we see an error has arisen, who do we contact first and how do we resolve it? The process has to be clearly identified, clearly communicated to all of your key players. And let me give you a bonus tip on key players. Key players are not just those individuals involved in the process. It's also the other areas that are impacted by what you do. So when it comes to finding out the root cause, is it people or is it process? There's a little bit of work you have to do before you can get to that. And we haven't even dug into doing analysis or doing a JAD session. I want to give you these immediate tips that you can take away after listening to this podcast and do what I call a 15-minute huddle with yourself before you go to your immediate team and ask yourself these questions. Now, if when you ask yourself these questions, you look at your process, if your list of we don't have these things set up is longer than the list of yes, we have those things set up, then there's hope because you've identified the areas of opportunity. I never call it area of improvement or weaknesses. They are all areas of opportunity if you take immediate action. So where do you go from here? Once you've identified your people, communication, your accountability, expectations, same thing with your process, where do you go from there? Well, it's time to take a step back and say, based on my people's performance today, based on our process performance today, how close or how far away are we from hitting our goal this year? And then this is where I call the leadership decision needs to come in. What are you going to do about it? A surgeon cannot operate on themselves. This is the prime time to bring in resources to help you along that way, to help you be able to take the skill set that your team has, the availability in the rest of this year, we have half the year left, to make the changes that are needed to hit your number, to hit your goal with whatever that may be. Market expansion, increasing sales, increasing customer retention, whatever your number is, whatever your goal is, it starts with the people, reinforced by the process, and then bringing in the right type of support that you need. So here's your call to action today. I would invite you to contact our office for a complimentary discussion, a consultation on what were your findings in the people and process part of this exercise. Let our team walk through some potential solutions for you and see how we can best support you. As you've went through identifying some areas of opportunity in the people part and the process, is You can't work in a silo yourself. One of the sixth reason why potential clients call us is because they realize that as leaders, they've been working in the silo mode. They've been going it alone. Look, you are an expert at what you do. You're an influencer in your space. You're an executive. You're in your position for a reason. But that's even more justification for you to get the support that you need and allow you to go and do the things that is your zone of genius, your zone of excellence, as Gay Hendricks says in The Big Leap. So that's my call to action to you. My call to action is once you've done this exercise, get the support you need. But find someone. Typically when clients come to us, they say, hey, we think there's smoke, no fire, but we come in and it's a full-blown inferno. Luckily, our team is able to work in those type of environments, but why not be proactive? Get a plan in place so you can come out of reactive mode.
Before you go, make sure to subscribe to this channel and leave a review. We look forward to hearing your feedback on this episode. Also, are you receiving a copy of the Revenue Report? Then we invite you to join the VOS community, a private members-only online area for business leaders. To learn more and to receive your copy of the Revenue Report, visit vosgroup.org.